Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's 7 o'clock in Motown. You know what that means. Live from our Macomb studios. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. You're checking in with the Detroit Lions Lone Wolves podcast, made possible thanks to On SI. Hope everybody's having a good hump day. It's a good time. You know, everyone now is settled in. They're doing their research. It's the Senior Bowl. You had a chance to check out the East-West Shrine Bowl. So everybody has their little slice. If you want to look at the coaching hires, today's show is going to be fun. As always, we'll check in with what you guys got to say. As always, questions always welcome. We're going to talk about, obviously, interestingly, some interesting nuggets of those Detroit Lions fans that are wearing Amon-Ra St. Brown jerseys. I don't know if this story is real, but it made the St. Brown podcast. So if it's tweeted out by the St. Brown podcast, we'll talk about it. Have a little laugh. A former Lions coach potentially is free. Do the Lions need to have the same level of energy for the defense as they do the offense? Should the coaching sphere come full circle? Do you want potentially a former coach back on staff, or maybe even to replace your defensive coordinator? We'll talk about a prospect that Emmett has profiled who is a scheme fit. I know, listen, in the world of prospects, there's going to be talks about fits and those that fit the scheme, those that don't. So we'll talk all about it, and then we'll finish the show with what are the Slappies saying this week, saying today. A lot of discrediting of teams that are in the playoffs and have won Super Bowls, which makes no sense. Fans clearly of the NFL should have a high level of respect for the Seahawks, the Patriots, and the Eagles. They've won. So to dismiss people talking about, wait a minute, you got teams, and even though the Seahawks had a 10-year decade, a 10-year drought per se, they won the Super Bowl in 2013 and have gotten back 12 years later before the Lions. John Schneider was able to get to the Super Bowl in 2013 after landing the job in 2010. So if my math is correct, landed the job in 2010, 11, 12, 13. 4 years delivered a Super Bowl. So no Slappy is going to diminish the shine of those that have won. Once you win a ring, everybody's going to praise you, even if you have a decade where you don't do anything. Let's be real. You won a ring. If Brad Holmes won a ring, he can retire with the Lions and never have success for 20 years. I wouldn't care. A ring is meaningful. Shout out to the early 100 people in the show tonight in the comment section. Appreciate you. Leave your comments, super chats, as always, go to the front of the line. Smash the like button. Shout out to Anakin, R. Rogers, Doughboy Steve, Miss Shanuga. What do you want to rage about? I'm in a good mood today. You know, it's feeling good, look good, feel good. I watched, maybe at the end of the show, I'll give you a review. Mike Epps did his comedy show on Netflix. It was okay. I'll give a review. I love watching comedy shows on Netflix. But let's get started. What is going on with Lions fans? Last week, it's crazy, right? You have and I think it is a little bit scary that someone's able to drive in 2025 directly into a terminal. It's a little scary. When I saw that, I was like, what? First of all, you always want to make sure that it's not something of an intentional nature where someone's trying to hurt someone. It does not appear that way when someone's getting dragged out wearing a Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey. So that was crazy. If you guys saw the footage, the fan is speaking incoherently and is at the McNamara terminal, getting pulled out of the car. Even Amon-Ra St. Brown on both of these incidents is like, what the heck's going on? Weird stuff. Anakin, I'm not going to say what weird stuff I've seen because some of it's inappropriate, but let's just say it's nuts. Some of the people do in public. What have you seen? Come on, you can't tease that. They're getting freaky. What are they doing? Tease it. It's unusual, but this is something now. I can't confirm if it's real, but it was tweeted out by the Amon-Ra St. Brown podcast, and it's hilarious. I don't browse, and you guys can tell me, you can bring that stuff here, we'll entertain it, but I don't confirm stuff that's on Reddit. I don't go there. I'm not a subreddit guy. I think I've been there once where I read, I made the list of favorite Lions podcasters, made me happy. I saw the list of all of like, oh, that was in there. Cool. I spend maybe an hour every couple months on Reddit. It's just not something I like to see. I like to read the newspaper. I like to go on X. I like to go on YouTube shows like this. I like to visit other streamers and have some fun in their chats. But Reddit is just not the place for me. Never got into it, never understood it. Just not for me. But this was hilarious. This made the St. Brown podcast, and not even in Michigan. This didn't take place in Michigan. Funny stuff. St. Brown podcast an hour ago. First, the airport guy. Now this. And this is where I got the topic for today's show. What's going on with people wearing the Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey? What's going on? Now this is from Reddit. Only in Louisville will a guy cut multiple lanes in traffic just for him to immediately get out and pee. Today in Louisville. This guy, our friend in the St. Brown jersey, springing a leak. And listen, when you got to spring a leak, it's important. You got to handle business. But what the heck, Lions fans? Amon-Ra St. Brown's like, what the heck's going on? Only in Louisville will a guy cut multiple lanes just for him to get out and piss. What's going on with you people? Have you seen unusual behavior from Lions fans at tailgates? I typically remember that, the most wild behavior I've seen was on opening day for the Tigers. Typically for me, I get to the stadium about 10:30. I don't see wild behavior, but I do remember some parties that get a little rowdy in September. Obviously, the Easter Market tragedy was unfortunate. Obviously, what's it like tailgating? Do you guys have a great spot to tailgate? I haven't tailgated in a good 8 years because I'm working. I'm writing stories. Where do you guys tailgate? A Lions fan today wrecked traffic just to get out of his car and piss. Craziness. Amon-Ra St. Brown podcast featured Fred Warner today. Otherwise, it's bland. From TM Martine. Yeah, I was disappointed because they teased Aiden Hutchinson. I didn't think it was him. I was like, the worst guest this week would have been Fred Warner. I'm like, I don't have any interest in that. Mishanuga. Did we honestly think it was going to be a great year one? He was trained by AG. I understand. We're going to talk about that. Where do you guys tailgate? Let me know. Eastern Market, you hang out at home. Is it still fun to tailgate? I have been in a professional capacity for so long that I would love to just sit, have a barbecue, have some eggs, some brisket on a Sunday. It would be nice not to work. Rogers, bring Schwartz and Tanner back. Yep, in just a few minutes, we'll talk about Jim Schwartz. I'm excited for the potential of Jim Schwartz. But I do think that if something goes down with the Eagles, there was a teased report that something could go down with the Eagles. Some people are speculating that maybe Vic Fangio might call it a career. He would naturally slide right back there with the Eagles. But we'll see. But we could take a moment here. Let's take a moment. You know what? I'll wait because we'll take a moment to laugh at the Browns. And I know it's not nice being that we're Lions fans, but we should take a moment on this show today to laugh at the Browns. A wide search to land that guy. And they're like, we still like you, Jim. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And based on the things that you see, Lions fans are having an interesting offseason. Lions fan today in Louisville wearing a St. Brown jersey, acting inappropriate. It was scary. I was scary to see that somebody drove a car through through a Metro Detroit terminal. Scary to see. How the heck did that driver veer through the GW terminal doors like that? I do think they have to have guardrails, right? Those little pull things across. You can't have somebody do that. It's easy to do. You can go right through. Relatively speaking, it's easy to do. That's what's concerning. Shout out to Elaine Hill. Good evening, y'all. Detroit Lions fan did what? Please, if you're in public, PSA, do not represent Amon-Ra like that. He's starting to notice all these things. A Lions fan drove into Metro, and a Lions fan is just relieving himself on the side of the road after weaving in and out of traffic. Calm down, people. Calm down. Let's relax. Shout out to you, Elaine. All right. I know you guys want to talk about it. The first thing I noticed was the fact that the Cleveland Browns are one of the most dysfunctional organizations, I think, in the league. The Browns, the Cardinals, the Raiders, it's just pure dysfunction. Every couple of years, they fire coaches. I mean, some media believe that the Raiders adding Geno Smith was great for them. I think most people, when it was discovered that the Raiders were trading for Geno Smith, most people with a football brain said this is going to be terrible. Why would you invest in Geno Smith? Some high-profile people loved it. I was like, what? I think most people felt like Sam Darnold with that defense had a chance to be successful this year. But some Seahawks fans didn't think that. They felt like Geno Smith leaving was a disaster. That's a bad take. And everybody's letting that person know. That's a bad take. Cleveland is on the level of the Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals. They do an expansive search. You got a general manager where the reports are that he has these prospective coaches do personality tests, questionnaires, essays. Here would be my essay for the Browns. Dear Browns, 6 years, $56 million. Buy. That's my essay. They're dysfunctional at the highest level of dysfunction. And they do a massive search. And you have these videos like last year, Andrew Berry, where Shedeur gets drafted and everybody in the room looks miserable. Andrew Berry, I think, is in over his head. You have Myles Garrett and the fourth best defense, and you can't win with the two-time coach of the year. Bad drafts. Bad contract to the quarterback. I mean, you can't saddle an organization with a contract like that. So you do an expansive search. Joe Brady, John Harbaugh. You could have tried to get Mike Tomlin out of retirement. All these great names. Mike McDaniel pulling out. Nobody wanted that job. And you do the search and you get a 60-year-old coach in Todd Monken. How are you going to establish your program? How are you going to establish, I get it. You have all those quarterbacks. Maybe they can work with this former college coordinator, spend time with the Ravens. But everybody thinks the Browns are dysfunctional, and they're laughing at the whole operation there. Andrew Berry's got his hands full. And you interviewed, I think you blew the best choice. I think you just should have kept Jim Schwartz. Naturally speaking, most organizations go from offensive mind to defensive mind. That's kind of how it goes. They interviewed Jim Schwartz twice. The franchise defensive end loves him. Nope. And they go back to Jim. Okay. They reportedly tell prospective coaches, if you're hired, you got to keep Jim Schwartz. Coaches are like, I don't want to do that. So they're like, bye. So they go to Jim Schwartz after they hired Todd Monk, and they're like, we still good? He's like, no, you passed me over. I'm out. Get me out of here. Piss off. So Jim Schwartz is under contract still with the Browns, but clearly that relationship is broken. Do you? Because the Lions are loading up on offensive minds, Mike Kafka, Drew Petzing. Do you reunite Jim Schwartz with the Lions? He got the Lions to a 10-6 record in 2011. They lost to the Saints in the playoffs, and that was a wrap 2 years later. 5 years in Detroit. The famous throwing the flag on Thanksgiving when you didn't need to. The game against Harbaugh. Do you want Jim Schwartz on this staff? Would you even just say, listen, sorry, Mr. Kelvin Sheppard, we got to go better. Jim Schwartz has pros and cons. First of all, he is somebody that is a defensive mastermind, has a lot of years of experience, and I think that's his best role. His best role, I think, is suited to be a coordinator. Proven defensive coordinator, top 5 defense. There's a problem, though, as pointed out. He doesn't run what the Lions are doing. So what? So what? Lions fans, I love you. You know that. But when you message me and say, well, he doesn't run what the Lions are doing, I don't care. Run what he's doing. I am not attached to the Lions' defensive scheme, whatever you want to call it. Bend and break and give up a bunch of points and explosive plays. Bend and get hurt. And don't stop anybody when it counts. Can't get off the field on third down. I don't care what the Lions' current scheme as it is. Jim Schwartz, come here, fix our defense. The Lions have never, and Vito wrote a great column today. Give Vito the respect to read his column. The Lions have not built, outside of one season, a championship-level defense. It's not good enough. The Lions' defense has not been constructed to compete with the likes of Seattle, New England, and the best defenses year in, year out for the given year. Your defensive line is good, not great. They were healthy for the most part. Good, not great. Secondary decimated, and people were put in roles. But that's a sign, though. Robert Saleh had a decimated defense, performed. Not at an elite level, but they still, without Fred Warner, were able to get some production and to get a playoff win. What do you guys think? Keith O says, always had a great defense with him. 4th ranked this year. Mishanuga, how many defenses had Coach Schwartz called? I'm sure they haven't been all the same scheme. He's been around the league and has had a great career, let me tell you. Shout out to you, Detroit sports fan. Haven't seen you. You excited for Friday? Michigan State in East Lansing. Get ready for the Spartan beatdown. Yeah, I hate the constant man coverage. They tried to adapt. Here's the problem, Detroit sports fan. They tried to adapt zone throughout this year. They understood, but it wasn't ran exactly smoothly. A lot of miscommunication and zone coverage for good offensive minds like Sean McVay. You can beat it. Underneath stuff, over the middle. You can every great offensive mind can expose certain coverages to be able to get your receivers open. Angus is like, demote Shep. I feel like if you did that, he would also kind of be in the same boat as Tanner Engstrand. Have it back and forth, but he would eventually leave. It's Jay Stees. We need an overtime for Rutgers? Jesus. They better step it up or they're going to get blown out by Michigan. It's Jay Steve gets in on this beautiful Wednesday. Bring me Raheem Morris, but I'd take Schwartz. Why? What do you like about Jim Schwartz? He's got a storied career. I think that as a coach, he's been somebody that has proven at the age of 59 that he can do some things. Lions coach from 2009 to 2013, Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator in 14, the Eagles coordinator 2016 to 2020. That's where he gained a lot of respect in the coaching ranks. His time with the Eagles definitely made marks. When he got there, in 2016, he inherited the worst defense in the league. He added the 4-3 defense, turned around the defense that was 30th before and 28th in points to 13th in defense and 12th in overall points. And in his second year, 4th. And guys, guess what? Could you imagine this coaching staff if it was going to be done right? You could have had Mike McDaniel and Jim Schwartz on your staff. Jim Schwartz won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. In 2 years, got the Eagles defense 4th from worst. Come on now. I think there's something to be said there. Bring him in as a high-level assistant. Give him a bigger job. If he doesn't be the defensive coordinator, give him a job. I think, do you forgive him for, the antics and being one of those coaches that had his team carry him off the field? You forgive Jim Schwartz? Yeah. In 3 years, 0-16, 2008, that whole regime gets fired. He comes in, and 2011, they made the playoffs with Stafford. Steve-O, baby. Why take him when he couldn't coach the Detroit Lions and he threw the flag against the Bills? That's a long time ago. 2010 is a long time. You're a different coach when you're 45 and you got the piss and vinegar than when you're 59. You got all the wisdom. I think he's the right guy for an opportunity here in Detroit to bring some defensive, if the idea is you don't want him to be your defensive coordinator, I think you got to add him as what we call a high-level defensive mind. I think he'd work great with Kelvin Sheppard. Bring in some good ideas, figure out some pressure, figure out how to get the defense operating in the right way. Yes, he's still under contract, but let's be real. He told the organization, piss off. He will not be coaching there. And I don't think the Browns are going to risk alienating this coach by enacting his contract. They'll let him out of the contract. I would be shocked. I mean, you literally passed him over twice. He did 2 interviews for you. Right? Push the chips in and give him a call. You could have had an amazing staff this year. Holy cow. I think Kafka and Petzing is looking okay. But you could have had something a little different. Could you imagine? Mike McDaniel, Dan Campbell, and Jim Schwartz? I'd roll with the season with that. Keith, though, absolutely a great career. Okay, so I'm sensing, and I think everybody saw the numbers, and everybody saw what happened. What does Kelvin Sheppard have to do to step up? I think defensively, the identity of the team has to step up in regards to, clearly the linebackers were okay. They were all over the field. The coverage was okay. They graded out pretty well. The problem is not enough pressure from the interior. You had selective pressure from the defensive ends. You had Aiden Hutchinson go through an 8-game stretch where he only had 3 sacks. Al-Quadin Muhammad had 11 sacks, but only in 7 games. You were pressuring at a great rate, but too slow. Good quarterbacks had time to pick you apart and get the ball out quickly. And eventually, with the secondary battered, too many explosive plays, it just was not going to work out with Rock Ya-Sin and Amik Robertson as your starting corners. It's just not going to work out. You can hold the fort, but eventually the dam is going to break. What does Kelvin Sheppard have to do? And I think a lot of you, and respectfully, I understand, a lot of you don't have an affiliation to Aaron Glenn's defense. You kind of hoped it would change. I respect that. It's something where the defensive numbers dictate that overall the defense could be so much better. Brent DeWitt, smash the emoji, smash the like button, not holding the past against him. Whatever it takes to get us a Lombardi. Absolutely. Steve Wilds with the critique. Bro, you look a lot tougher with the goatee. That's right. When you battle the slappies, you got to bring some toughness. Appreciate you, Steve. The funny thing is that the slappies will say, you're just rage baiting. Why would I rage bait? I got a big smile on my face every day. I'm just telling you my opinion. You like it or you don't. I don't have to rage bait. I just tell you my feeling. Losing sucks. That's just the general nature of sports. Winning is great. Thinking about wins is great. Thinking about losses and not being in the playoffs sucks. Wouldn't it be great if we were talking about the Lions in the Super Bowl? Super chat, Mishanuga. Bless you, Doc. You are appreciated. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks for listening in on a daily basis. What do we want to rage about, Mishanuga? Why can't the Lions build a defense at the championship level for 1 year? Why can't the defense carry Jared Goff? I think this fan base likes the aggressiveness for Tesla, but they would have loved it for a sack master. I think this town is more Chris Spielman, Jack Campbell than St. Brown and Tesla and JMO. They like offense. They like it. But they love defense. They want to see a Ray Lewis. They want to see Aiden Hutchinson dominate. This is Motown. This is Grit Town. Can you give us a defense to go along with your star-studded offense? And then look at the early moves. Mike Kafka, Drew Petzing, all the bells and whistles for the offense, and the defense has got to feel like a stepchild. Can we get some coaches? Steve, shout out to you. $9.99 super chat. Doc is the GOAT. Thank you, man. That means a lot. Appreciate you, man. So the goatee is a front. I'm a nice guy. Smile a lot, tell jokes, keep it light, but I like to win. I want to be competitive. I like winning. And I like the feeling of an organization that's pursuing a upward trajectory. Thank you, man. And to me, I'm always of the opinion that if there are people doing things you want to be doing and you talk to the people about, well, it looks like Seattle and New England spent some money. Maybe the Lions could do that effectively. People push back. Brad's okay. No, technically he spent a lot of money on people that didn't work out. I need everything better, just better. Winning cures all. And I do think, and to be honest, I do think this look is not bad for an on-camera presence. Thank you, Steve. You're making me feel better about myself. Is it John Morton, John McAroon? There's no, and if you're on X at Detroit Podcast, nothing I say. Oh, look at the news that comes through my phone. Someone can look it up for me. I got an alert from the Detroit News. Emergency grounds flights at Detroit Metro Airport. What the heck happened? And guys, I so want to fly. I'm going to the combine. Your friendly neighborhood homie, reporter, insider, writer, podcaster is going to the combine in March. I'm trying to see if I want to go to the owners meeting in Arizona, but I just am so uncomfortable flying. I want to go, but it makes more sense if I go to the one every year. It rotates from Florida to Arizona, Florida to Arizona, but I've never been to Arizona, but I want to go give you the coverage. We'll see. Hopefully the emergency is not serious. Emergency grounds flights at Metro Airport. Ugh. How do the Lions fix the defense? 515. And Steve, shout out to you for being a daily viewer of this podcast. It does mean a lot to see the same faces. 515 Earl, shout out to you. Judging by these new OC hires, Shep may be forced to shave his head bald to fit in, right? Steve-O, so you're having faith in a guy like Sheppard who was ranked 23rd, right? People, I think the fan base is like, we kind of want to move away from the Aaron Glenn defense. Like, give us something else. A more aggressive, fast type defense that can consistently get after the quarterback, force turnovers, stop the run. But you're going to have to get some help. You need a couple more defensive ends behind Ahmed Hassanin and Aiden Hutchinson. You need more from Tyleik Williams. You need more from Ali McNeil. You have Roy Lopez, great role player, but you need an interior defensive tackle presence that can stop the run. And I don't know if I like the style of Broderick Martin and DJ Reader. Good players, but they don't get after the quarterback. I need a full-service defensive tackle. I need a more productive defensive tackle. I need a more productive defensive line. More. Are we committing, Steve-O baby? If they win a Super Bowl, let the hair go. Anakin is. If they win a Super Bowl, who's joining the ball gang? Ha! Our Rodgers. Offense is bald. Defense can have some flowing hair. You might lose it in Alex Anzalone. That's funny. Doughboy Steve put a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. That's very funny. Anakin, you got to do it. You got to fall to the peer pressure. Shave your head if they win a Super Bowl. You can just declare it. They haven't won it in 60 years. You got a good chance. Michael Dietz is in. I will if we win a Super Bowl. Absolutely. You got to grow the bald gang if the Lions win a Super Bowl. I just feel like the Lions defense, in a manner in which it's been constructed, has been okay, but not enough at a championship level. Just not enough. Not enough to be able to consistently win in the playoffs. I mean, Jaden Daniels tore you apart. And that stung too because, you had all those injuries to Aleem, Derek Barnes, Aiden Hutchinson. You were trying to get by, and you recognize that on the second play of the game, Amik Robertson goes down. That was the final nail in the 2024 season. That was tough. I feel like this defense is now going to be led by Jack Campbell. It's going to be good. Do you trust that Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw can come back in at the cornerback spot. I feel like there's more skepticism than confidence. I feel like the cornerback spot has not been evaluated to the highest degree. You might have needed to take Cooper DeJean over Terrion Arnold. We shall see if they come back and are able to. We shall see. I just feel like it's going to be an uphill climb. Uphill climb because the defense is good but not great. And it was adaptable, but I just feel like what would you identify as the defensive identity? Crush the can defensively, man-to-man coverage, physical stuff. I mean, that's all great, but it got the team hurt. The cornerbacks are getting hurt trying to make all these tackles. So we shall see. But I think Jim Schwartz would get people excited. But it would take some changes. You'd have to do some adapting. So that's why I think right now, I think that you're going to get year 2 of Kelvin Sheppard. Brent. Shep wasn't horrible for a first-year DC, but injuries dealt him a bad hand. But so did injuries deal Robert Saleh a bad hand. They made it through. And he got himself a head coaching job. You got to have the right scheme. And I think where Shep was great was overall going into a game with a game plan with an ideal vision. Then what happened is teams would make adjustments and the Lions couldn't meet those adjustments. Teams would get the ball out quickly, start to run the ball effectively, put the defense in bad spots, power running attacks, and you got bullied in the trenches. But did it appear that the team adapted to the adjustments that were made against them? I don't think so. Once Aaron Rodgers figured out what the Lions were doing, it was you were done for. Bend don't break at times, but in critical moments, the game that I think frustrated everybody the most was the Steelers game. They're so one-dimensional, but you couldn't stop the one dimension. You couldn't stop their running attack. That was eye-opening. That was jarring. Oh, look, Jalen Warren's running for another touchdown as we broadcast. That was disturbing that you weren't able to really clamp down and execute against that team. Like, you probably should have curb stomped the Steelers. That was tough. Given the circumstances, given it was at home, but Aaron Rodgers quickly identified where the pressure was coming from and picked you apart. Boom, 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 boom. Absolutely. July 4th, 1776. It appears we're going to need a lot of new players next year. Yes, that's the case. Smash the like buttons, 250 people across 2 platforms. That's really nice every night. 40 phenom, yes. But you're going to address some in the draft. And we're going to talk about one here shortly. Well, after the ground stop, it has been lifted, according to Fox Local. Ground stop lifted amid aircraft emergency, according to the FAA. Please, I hope everything is okay. If you're reading it or you check it out, let me know what's going on at Metro. And I'm also concerned, 515, you're exactly right. What's Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph going to look like? You might need 2 new safeties. Brian Branch, I hope, comes back and is, similar to the player, but you never know with an Achilles. Modern technology gives you a great chance, but you never know. I hope he doesn't lose a step. And Kirby Joseph, fingers crossed. I think we have no Kirby next year and obviously no Branch for most, if not all, next year, probably into October, and wait until you get the full version of Brian Branch. Our defense needs a miracle, and all we have is $5 and a pocket of lint to throw at free agency. No, you're going to get some money. You're going to get a hefty amount. Restructure Sewell, St. Brown, Goff, you're going to get some money. Plus 25 in how much the cap goes up every year. You're going to get some money. But the bigger question is, does Brad know how to spend it? Michael Dietz, do you know what's up with Kirby's injury? It's the same thing that's been reported. It's, most likely it was a knee injury, clearly, that he kept trying to work back from that just needed rest. And he kept, what Brad Holmes said was him not being on his knees and resting and trying to rehab should give him a chance, an opportunity to come back. Knee irritation. Hopefully, others were saying along the lines of, potentially degeneration. We don't know that for a fact, but we shall see. It's very concerning because he tried to rehab it, maybe came back, and the timing of his comebacks did not align, and he potentially further injured it by practicing. So you hope that with rest, with the efforts that he makes this year in the offseason, the issue is going to be he may not ever play without pain ever again. This is bad, potentially. Hopefully, he has the opportunity to rehab, rest, get the knee as strong as possible to be able to have a career. But there is a slight level of concern. When your coach says, well, we don't know, we have to see when it calms down, when he gets healthy, if it's something of a degenerative nature, it's going to be an issue. So we shall see. When training camp rolls around, OTAs, we'll get a better sense. We'll get a better sense at the combine. I'm sure that question will be asked. Michael Dietz, before the combine, make sure, drop a friendly reminder to make sure we ask about the injured players. But I'm like I said, with 20, 30 Detroit media members going, it'll be discussed. Michinuga's with the common theme of the week. Dan took over the offense. Now maybe Dan can take over the defense. Great question, Anakin. Do you think the offense and defense can get to top 10 together at the same time? It's going to be tough. Don't forget about Dan Jackson. But he also got hurt year one. And it's tougher to trust later round picks. We shall see. Last few minutes here. Always talking about good, relevant topics. Today, first and foremost, in regards to bringing back Jim Schwartz, I think that Kelvin needs the same level of help that Dan got for the offense. Here are three names. I think one of them that we profiled is leaning toward getting an opportunity, but so be it. We still want help. The Detroit Lions need help. And here's the topics we did today at Detroit Lions on SI. Great website. It's clean. It lets you read content. We do 5 to 7 stories every single day. Today, we're going to profile Gabe Jacobs, potential defensive end the Lions could target. Obviously, the poll question about Jim Schwartz, Vito's opinion about the defense, and this is what I'm really proud of. Christian Boer, 3 veteran coaches Lions could add to aid Kelvin Sheppard. We need aid. Check it out. Obviously, watch the videos. Chuck Pagano is the most common name that comes up. He was a head coach with the Colts, has a familiarity with Kelvin Sheppard. It's going to be interesting to see if he ends up with John Harbaugh. Raheem Morris, let go by the Falcons. Former Falcons coach, has had 2 stints as a head coach, first with Tampa and most recently with Atlanta. I feel like he's a coach that could be very intriguing. I think that's a name to pay attention to. Now, this name, Patrick Graham, I think is being bandied about for another opportunity. But Raiders defensive coordinator, I think he's going to find another opportunity. But Raheem Morris is the name that's most intriguing. Is there a name that you think could come in here and handle business. Thank you, TM. WDIV is reporting ground stop due to a private plane on fire. Oh, no. Listen, that's what's scary. You'll never, ever, I don't think, to whatever level of success I ever reach in this business, I will never fly private. The risk is greater flying private than commercial. It's a greater risk, and you feel the turbulence more in the smaller plane. Are you crazy? I don't care how high that thing flies and how fast it goes. I can wait a couple hours extra. I'm with the common folk. Now, I could be persuaded based on who invites me. You know what I mean? I think you guys can figure it out. Listen, you want to come with us to the combine? Maybe. I could be persuaded, but right now I'm planting my flag. I'm not flying private. July 4th. Thank you, TM, for the update. Appreciate you. We need help. Yeah. Anybody out there that you think can help Kelvin Sheppard? I think they should make some drastic changes to that defense. New defensive backs coach, new defensive line coach. Nice. Bam, bam. Yo, Doc, had to bust out my old profile pic to show you what's under this Lions hat. P.S. Can Tesla evolve into a possible tight end? A lot of you are asking that question. Potentially. A hybrid, but I think his size and speed makes him really, I think, a great X receiver. You're part of the ball gang. Nice. Bam, bam, cute. Reppin'. It's a better look for you, my man. Better profile pic. The goatee bald crew. The Morton look. I think that's interesting. It's intriguing, right? You need tight ends. But listen, I know it's not the new wave of thinking, but I am not down for my tight ends blocking that are skill players like that. I want a blocking tight end, a couple of them, grinders, and I want my stars to go out and run. And that's look what happened. You know, Tesla is somebody that's got to be worked into the offense, but Laporta gets hurts his back. I think it's tough, man. I think it's tough to go down that road. Mishanuga, Doc, when you bringing in your Kafka? The total bald look? Maybe. We'll see. When is the defense going to bring in a Kafka on that side? We still don't know what role Kafka is going to have. Could be passing game coordinator. Could be something else. We shall see. I'm intrigued by Kafka. I think it's going to be great. It's going to work out. Any coach on defense that you think could help. We also profiled today Gabe Jackas. He fits as a player that's a draft prospect that we profiled. He's intriguing. I know a lot of you like TJ Parker. We'll probably talk about that a little bit in tomorrow's show. TJ Parker. A lot of Lions fans falling in love with him based on his work at the Senior Bowl. It's nice. But give Emmett credit. He's doing the profiles. Listen, I like the draft, just don't love it. I like watching NFL film. Is Gabe Jackas the edge of the future? Great profile done. We'll do them randomly a couple times a week. Illinois edge, Gabe Jackas, two-time All Big Ten selection. Jackas is one of the most prolific pass rushers in Fighting Illini history. And obviously, being that Emmett covers the Big Ten, he knows about him. 6'3", 260. We'll get a little highlight here. Little film action. Boom. Jackus wins, forces the fumble, picked up by a teammate. Got a high motor. Good counter punch and spin. Good power. Former state wrestling title. Turns 22 in May. Like always, we present both sides. Things that we like, things we don't like. You know, the thing he's got to, be mindful of is the closing speed. Consistency with pad level. While he has some burst, his explosiveness off the edge can be improved. And so every profile we now have, we don't have a grit meter. Listen, all football players are tough. Clearly, if you have a problem with a motor, the Lions won't draft you. But we are calling it what the Lions need is instant impact. What is the potential for this player to get out on the field and, on a scale of 100, get out there and contribute? Jackus is a very solid power rusher and is one that can project well into Detroit's scheme. As a day 2 pick, Jackus brings intrigue. The tools and years are there if he's in a system to develop, but it's hard to call the Illinois defender a sure thing quite yet. He has flashes and the drive to become a Pro Bowl caliber player. Instant impact score 80, above average, can come in and do the job. So pay attention to that name, Gabe Jackus. Yes, sir. 845. Hardest working guy in media, right? Any defensive ends that are catching your attention at the Senior Bowl, leave them in the comments. Smash the like button. Right? It's very true. D-Mix 24. Up and down year. It was inconsistent. Brock Wright. I feel like they should just let him go to the 49ers. Even though we have a new pro tight end coaching scheme, I think we need to move on from Brock. Is it possible we draft 2 tight ends, or is this scheme too complex for rookies? Tight end is known to be the hardest to learn. I think they keep Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, and they draft. I think you're probably odds are going to draft one and most likely add one in free agency. You still have Shane Zylstra. You still have a couple of guys that you have on your practice squad that you maybe want to develop. So you're absolutely right. It is tough. And especially if you're going to use 13 personnel, you got to go out there and load up. I could see 2 to 3 additions at tight end. 1 in the draft, 1 free agent. Yeah, it's going to be something to pay attention to. If Ferkser comes back, Ricci, is he back on the roster? It's very important. That 12, 13 personnel is going to be interesting, but Brock Wright has to step up. Inconsistent at best. You're spot on, D-Mixed. Spot on, 100%. And I think they're not getting as much as they could out of Brock Wright, given the contract. It's got to be better. You'll always be a slacker, Doc. I'm not a slacker. I get your humor. I like your humor, Mishanuga. Thank you for the super chats. That means a lot. Thank you for your support. Helps keep the lights on in the operation. Get your last questions in. About 5 minutes left. Anand Nathan says tight end Sam Roush. Sam Roush. Day 3, great player, awesome blocker. We'll pay attention. Gives us a name. Thank you. Sam Roush, day 3. A lot of you are looking at that rep from Derek Moore. Derek Moore blew that man up. Whew, you guys saw the rep? Woo! That 6'9" fool fell to the ground. My goodness. Derek Moore with the rep from yesterday's Senior Bowl practice. You know he saw it. Keith Fountain, shout out to you. All right, before we get out of here, what are the Slappies saying today? Here's what the Slappies are saying today. They're not giving credit to the Seahawks because listen, we're all praising the Seahawks. From 2015 to 2024, the Seattle Seahawks under GM EVP John Schneider went 3-6 in the playoffs, never advancing past the divisional round. Schneider has done an undeniable job in the franchise's recent turnaround. But that doesn't mean Brad Holmes hasn't also done an excellent job or deserves any criticism or being torn down. It's fair to wonder what this type of analysis would have sounded like during his decade-long stretch. The lack of nuance in this Holmes-Schneider conversation is unfortunate, but not surprising. What are the Lion Slappies saying today? Listen, if you win a Super Bowl, you can go 15 years in my book and never do anything. You'll always get the cred. You won a Super Bowl. You won a Super Bowl. The Slappies are twisted regarding Lions fans praising Howie Roseman, John Schneider, the Patriots. Lions fans have given up on the Patriot way, but the Lions didn't do the Patriot way correctly. The Patriot way is young quarterback, spend in free agency, aggressive trades. They tried in free agency, but they tried to bring in former Patriots. Danny Amendola, Trey Flowers. Listen, if a team wins a Super Bowl and a team is doing good things, Lions fans want to peek at it because the Lions have never been there. And again, I think the recipe is simple. You have to spend in free agency on good players. You have to pick right, but you have to spend. You can do it if you spend on the right players. Spend, draft players that will have instant impact. When the time comes, add talent in the trade market. All the tools. Brad Holmes has done a great job to get the team relevant, but when it came down to take the next step from good team to great team, it failed. It's 5 years. You can do it in one. You theoretically can do it in 1 year. Coach, young quarterback, spend a bunch of free agency. You are the New England Patriots. Wouldn't that be lovely? Maybe 2026 is the Lions' year. Put it all together. We shall see. We'll go along for the ride. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Today's topics were Jim Schwartz. Do the Lions need help more for Kelvin Sheppard? What is going on with Lions fans donning the St. Brown jersey, acting a fool? And a profile of a defensive end. Hope everybody has a safe night. Check me out 8:45. We'll do a more comprehensive talk with Crunch Time about a bunch of different topics. But thanks for tuning in to the daily episode. Appreciate checking in with all of you. The 7 o'clock hour is a fun hour. Michael Dietz, good night to you. Good to see you in here, Evans. You're not the only one. Brad messed up the O-line. Fix that, and Monty will get it done again. Right, Keith Fountain, that's the comment of the day. How can you diss the Seahawks? If he could have a whole decade to stink. Schneider already blew up the team and rebuilt it and going to another Super Bowl. So what are the Slappies saying today? And disrespecting the Seahawks. Come on, man. The Lions are not in the playoffs, and they rebuilt after a decade before you did. A decade. What kind of nuanced conversation do you want to have? He's done it twice. What did the Slappies say today? They don't like Seattle today. Brett, appreciate you in the $5. Thank you so much, guys, for your super chats. Keeps the lights on. Show support. I love seeing the green on this screen. Brett Rudes, 7240. Rudesville. Brett with the $5 super chat to end the show. Am I the only one out here who thinks trading Montgomery is stupid AF? Absolutely. We think it's not ideal, but when the Lions love Jahmyr Gibbs, it's not fair to the player to sit somebody that can potentially be a good productive player. If you can get a third rounder for him, fourth rounder, you might do it. It's not ideal, but maybe he stays. Maybe they go to him and say, listen, we are going to use you a little bit more. But it feels like out of every 20 carries, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get 12, 13 because he's going to go to the house every time. He's going to take it to the house. It's silly, but in what the Bears did, they were able to get their running back in the 7th round. You can find him. I know it's tough because you love that player, but you can find productive running backs pretty well in most draft classes. But we shall see. I respect you, Brett. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Good night. If you want to check out Crunch Time, more discussions about the Lions. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. I represent Detroit Sports Podcast and this Detroit Lions Lone Wolves podcast, a daily YouTube channel show that shows up at 7 p.m. most nights. We're trying. Maybe in March, the week of my birthday, get a week off. We'll see. Or tape a bunch of stuff. We'll see. But I like doing it, and you guys seem to enjoy listening. It's made possible thanks to On Sports Illustrated, a great partner who lets us be us and supports creative content and entertaining broadcast. Let's talk tomorrow.